Hello, friends. In the last webinar, I had discussed the importance of taking a stable stance and position. In that webinar, I had asked you a question. What is the relation between a stable stance and position with your smooth trigger operation when the sights come into the aiming area? I had very briefly explained and answered this question in my webinar, but I felt that I need to go a little bit deeper and make the explanation more simpler and more interesting to understand. When your stance is not stable, your arc of movement becomes wider, as shown in this clip. Now, this is how a beginner, his arc of movement is very wide and he takes a lot of time in trying to reduce this arc of movement. An expert level shooter, a top level shooter, an experienced shooter who's got a very good stable stance and position. When his sights come into the aiming area, the arc of movement is greatly reduced and he spends very little time in reducing the arc of movement. And his arc of movement looks like the way it is shown in this clip. Notice his arc of movement is reduced the moment it comes into the aiming area. Now, this is an ideal situation. Even the best of shooters don't get this kind of arc of movement the moment the sights come into the aiming area. But this is an ideal arc of movement. Now, please remember one thing, that your mind can focus or concentrate or pay attention to only one thing at a time. Therefore, when your sights come into the aiming area and you need to concentrate on your smooth trigger operation, your mind starts jumping from the moving sights and then back to the trigger. From the trigger back to the moving sights. And this hopping from the sights to the trigger operation results in a discontinuous trigger operation. Whereas your trigger operation should be smooth and continuous till follow through. As a result of this stop, start trigger, because your mind gets diverted to the wide arc of movement, eventually the trigger operation is not smooth, it's not continuous, and the shot can go anywhere, as shown in this clip. Notice in this video how the trigger operation breaks a number of times. And the shot may go anywhere. The trigger operation, as shown in the video, keeps breaking because your concentration, instead of being on the smooth trigger operation, smooth continuous trigger operation, keeps getting distracted by the wide arc of movement. Let's see the clip again. Now watch how the trigger operation breaks because of your attention being diverted to the wide arc of movement. As a result, the shot may go anywhere. The second scenario is that some beginners initially wait for the arc of movement to reduce to their satisfaction, and then they start the trigger operation. When the sights become steady, then they start the trigger operation. By that time, several seconds have passed, and there is this strong urge building up in your lungs to resume breathing. And this again diverts your attention from the trigger operation, and you want to get rid of that shot as fast as possible, so you jerk the trigger, as shown in this video. Notice how the shooter is waiting for the sights to reduce its arc of movement. And then, so many seconds have gone, the trigger is jerked. Let's watch the video again. Because the arc of movement is taking a very, very long time, and this buildup of pressure in your lungs to resume breathing, you jerk the trigger, as shown in the clip. So if you have a very good stable stance and position, your arc of movement will be reduced, and you will be able to concentrate much better on a smooth, continuous trigger operation, as shown in this clip. The moment the sights come into the aiming area, you concentrate on your trigger operation, and the shot is superb. Notice how the trigger moves very smoothly and continuously, and there is an excellent follow-through of the trigger, smooth continuous trigger, before, during, and after the shot. Let's watch the clip once again. Notice how the trigger starts off the moment the sights come into the aiming area, and is very smooth, continuous before, during, and after the shot. And because of an excellent follow-through, the shot has gone in the 10. So that is the relationship between your stable stance and a smooth, continuous trigger operation follow-through. And between the two, your stable stance and your trigger operation is the reduced arc of movement, because a stable stance and position contributes to a great extent to reduce the arc of movement. And when your arc of movement is reduced as quickly as possible, you can then concentrate on a smooth, continuous trigger operation follow-through. So that is the relationship between your stable stance and position and your smooth, continuous trigger operation when the sights come into the aiming area. Thank you.